Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme God of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glories conquer Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme God of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. Guru, teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme God of beings to be subdued, teacher of gods and humans, to you, Buddha Bhagavan, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time the Bhagavan was dwelling on mass of Vulturous mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharadvati Putra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form, emptiness is not other than form, form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Tayata gate gate pada gate pada samgate bodhisvaha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from the concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. And then we'll do the short mandala offering, if that's okay, with Rinpoche. So page 4, Sunny. 사실보기 중심의 덕참 우인지님을 유현반디 성계신도 맹내 오이 정공 남당신라 저하정 이담 구르라나 만달라 감느야타야미 성겐 초당 성겐 정남라 정초바드 당리 겹수지 자기 전행기 배소남기 졸라 반추 성게 주파속 성겐 초당 성기 정남라 정초바드 당리 겹수지 자기 전행기 배소남기 졸라 반추 성게 주파속 상계 저당 성기 정남라 정추바드 당리 겹소지 자기 전행기 매선남기 졸라 반치 상계 주파속.
Okay. So before we start my talk today, a little bit going to put emphasis into the meditation into the ultimate nature of mind. So before doing that, let's do a short meditation, mainly focusing to generating positive motivation. Okay. So, first, trying to creating meditation posture, harmonious, and then gradually bringing your attention, your awareness to your posture. Now, all the process you need to take it very gently, non-forcing, non-reacting. And really feel the presence of your body in your mind. Without analyzing, without judging, state of equanimity. Just abiding into the present awareness, let go in your past, not digging in your future, just in now, here, this moment. And then through the state of a present moment, then gradually opening up your awareness. And then through the stage of this open awareness, gradually generating feeling of empathy and loving kindness. Through the state of this loving kindness, then gradually awakening your awareness of a Buddha nature of all sentient beings. Based on awareness of Buddha nature, then creating bodhicitta motivation that you want to obtain the enlightenment, purpose of benefiting sentient being. And then gradually let going that feeling of a bodhicitta mind. And just back to the simple awareness. And then through that, gradually bringing your awareness to your meditation posture, where you started. Okay. So based on this motivation, can we recite the 4 image Buddha prayer 3 times?
May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from desire for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from desire for friends and hatred for enemies. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from desire for friends and hatred for enemies.
Okay. You're ready for ultimate nature of mind? Okay, so before we started, I was thinking, my talks are so all over. So at least if I read the root text, that transmission, and at least you have that. Okay, so that transmission that I received from His Holiness and my another great teachers. So that have the blessings. 평소에를 제외 준비고 다연 조배제와 공연소 말레이시아지 제베도 샤제조 원달라 그리샤 셀 ramjam suram bula dawe mi ke san tabu drube chungwa shu zewe jewe tamji tseba ye sensation ye namla kuicha tse jive lama tamba kenam ke chugu kala kenze rene jita sambe tu jiza mala sabye juye jawa abdu su namo ma muja ya gunja kunji rangi jaja Emin jude semgi doji jimbo tunzu kemda drube ze dame lami shabala gube du 동아 교수 명아 주드네 레버돔즈 간den가 주바 주주 담아바라 야바스 기 가수 체제진 비담바지 테난딜라 종을 조숨레 담보된 단테제나 주베고다 시준제 가슴 지zam바 임바 겸로 심기는데 저 심기 중이 동아양 소사 집견라도베 이야 봄장 동장이 연결하 가만원당 두수산제 탐제다 이메사벨라마라 니네스데 연자 우지제 좀불로 시즈만도 도나양 동아예비와 치만 도지 류인이라 내도는베 탐제레 중이 되지 요새데 사라하던 루루샤 나름 미제 자진데 주제군이 된 바에 남에게데 연연이 아마 오늘 견디는 숨기 모든 돈이 공부돼 딜레션 베탈벨라 메제 루루고 저데 좀 테난디 공부진 자제진 뷰티포데 심기 모두 제베즈 긴딜라 메송 진주 이게 주고 망한테 로니마 이게 시제 조젠다 오메더질라 수바 수민도 많아야 예된 동들이 다 계신 냠뇽지기 내주베 채나 공부지도 봐 테난딜라 따도 없네요 공부수당 공도네 따와수베도니 디네 치메 루진 삼데인데베도 불라 륜데 륜단데 농루 구조 다도서 제가 당일에 받지 남다한 입었습니다. 바 점도선 게 원단에 사멜 살롬라면은 조금 슈자 손데베 자소서 제네라마랑 안데 나마 뱀뱀랑 되나래도 로선남데지 자조가 이제 보이 메주진 양바슈 야다 뉴로다 보이 이제가 봐마인 바마인 좀 비자서 주거리 베시진 리진 세븐 오라 심기 좀 나제게도 남도 간다가 게 바테도 딩 뭐지 야나 레고르게 신도 남도 지게 베데지 제다라네 바티즈 템바 마슐레 줄루 심기 좀 나서 줄루 심기 족사탄나다 신양 지게도 주구지 했으면 되네도 나저와 대좀에 제송바다라 마인류 남도 관계 오라 데즈랑에 동서저 대신 내서 당나야 마디비 동세 시기바 통화 니주르 제바 제 자제 남도 지지장 미국 유원 것은 봐 제대디 오라 저와 징기 자존이 부배배다 손바에 지나라 신이 부배 자존이 초놈 권에 라야데 보진 시바시 장발에 님샤고 관계장 마지비 당신 서바당 수진 간도야 모주베 동상 나가도 외진 제베게와 대다라심기 주니네 무슨 나게 동배장 디시 송신 등도메 강절 디시 중진에 강신 zem에 소부죠 니네 상계 버정수 도배당과 인도시 대상 강리 검진바 배치 공부지도 줘 대다람의 교수되는 당빌레 제 심진이 주변에 좀 답게다 심기 오주 제부수 인신 주의 양세마 아니 심지 중에라 오주 제부수 상계는 제신 미스비수는 도로 몽베 세베사벨라 메시담고 머리 냠장이래 미요 탐미주난도 냠자 시다니 신주바도 참유시 배우고 뭐이 기울은 신자 바라다 기부 파울루 기본이 기부 삼이주 뭐이 메메노미 나가면 남시만 유금이나 텔레신이 기부강 기부 감주 두베지를 한다 많이 지다와 지시감내시 양두지 양도니도 지 좀바제자바는 냠장 냠부 적현수 두제섬 야만이와 대세 인민세제도 냠장난 거다 오경 양나냐 바라샤병 수수마도 동생 디메나서 지 강미 세신 리베중 체번을 주베셈 deme nangxin zimbai xin yun gongbu shiwa le gyun dang nim chen yama yin su su ma zhu dong zang jim ye na zo shi shi de gang me se xin ri be gyun chi ba mi ba ju be sum deme nangxin zimbai xin yun gongbu shiwa le gyun dang su shi shang wan de chama ma la su shi shi sum ba jing long dang ri bai nang zu dar du ma ju be ngang du zi ji nim ba ju ba do na da ge ge be ji tun da tun ba tam ji jen san ge yi shi xiang an ni ka shi 가셔 남도 증바이나 된담 주인이시나 되면 샤뱅도르데 동고나 지진 버저바 예마오 시버 지진 겸벌에 동배양도르고 동자 또 토동에 베테니 와시 조공버지도 되네 지지 찾으신 분 공부를 좀 이제 와지 와 두숨 계속다 라메 chanju chen 부런 거 대도 국내 소주기 유라 나와 지시야 낭주르 심으로 시다 내주에 좀 받은 게 자. 간절한 거 인진 더비는 돌나랑게 돌나. 장샘 라조바 칸칸나 왜 텐데니 마진 대단티 내주 대게 버 길라다도 장 테드라샤네. 콘데기 죽은 장신 치도 주로 제지게도 바발리. 오지기 더고 간티니 군지 더고 제지기 동니 강인 버티니 군지 동니 제존 테드라주니 라주니 냠버샤병 유명해서 콘데지 주변에 난 점이 연달라네 다세 민장 도유 잠시 자제된 유명한 밀미 규주는 다 기모도 보는 게자 나의 동방 미디지 동배 동방이고 바통다 된주 된집에 람섬 대승문도 교르 지게도 만도도 바로서 이제제제바 조금 게베 제베 람디 뉴르도 게 교르지 오케이 so just roughly the root text and within the Tsongkhapa lineage, these have several authors, several different authors. Yangsi Rinpoche, Kundang Tembe Drone, Gesang Chanyam Malam, all these are these are three great scholars who kind of like make a slight different explanation into the meditation in the nature of the mind. Kanden Kagyu Mahamudra. Okay. So now here, meditation into the Simgyong Otraba, introducing the nature of mind. Sim Otraba, this terminology only like introducing the nature of mind. This terminology only used into the Mahamudra teaching. This such a terminology, like there's no way saying introducing the emptiness of the mind, introducing the emptiness of the mind, the ultimate truth of the mind, emptiness. When you talk the emptiness, there's no such a word comes. And this again, in both case, in the meditation of the emptiness of a self or meditation of the emptiness of the mind, in both case, obviously, preliminary such as we want to practice, particularly Guru Yoga, becomes important in both cases. However, in a particularly somewhat in introducing or nature of mind, or the Mahamudra, that's, I think, this kind of like Guru Yoga practice, plus from the disciple practitioner, him or herself having this kind of like a strong foundation of a merit combination, and in Samgotapa looks like there's a kind of like a very, kind of like if we are really kind of doing intensive retreat, maybe at the beginning very much require having something close by your spiritual mentor, Kalyana Mitra, your root teacher, something that's you really relying into that consulting quite closely instead of reading books and doing by yourself. Okay, but meditation in the emptiness of a self, or meditation of a when we're talking from that kind of like a Madhyamika view, generally, yes, you require Guru Yoga practice and there's some kind of guidance, but it gives you a little bit more kind of self-reliant. You have your own kind of like exercising or wisdom of understanding, wisdom of a contemplation, and wisdom of a meditation, three wisdoms. So sometimes we get stuck into the wisdom of understanding. Sometimes we get stuck into the wisdom of contemplation. Sometimes we get stuck into the wisdom of meditation. I think this kind of, anytime when we make this kind of like progressions of your wisdom or method, sometimes we get kind of, that's, when we get in a stuck in a particular area, like a wisdom of a contemplation, you get really good at it, but the wisdom of meditation. So again, what that means, we need to get contemplation and the meditation. So meditation over here, wisdom of a meditation usually means there's a kind of like a strong shine, strength into the practitioner, okay? So now, So here, what's happening is through the meditation in the nature of a mind, through Shine meditation, through Shine, you have some kind of conventional nature of mind. You have so now Simgotrpa, like introducing the nature of a mind, or is only qualified when you have understood the emptiness of the mind, the ultimate nature of a mind. The understanding or the awareness of just a Shine mind is not necessarily is qualified as a knowing as a doluki whatever, even in Sutrayana, Sutrayana Mahamudra, the Tantric Mahamudra, and even in Sutrayana, sometimes I think one of the teacher, Gebje Dzong Rinpoche, previous one, in one of his teaching about Mahamudra, he mentioned that, to qualify to introducing the nature of a mind is have to refer to the ultimate nature of a mind, not the conventional nature of a mind. Okay, so basically, that's basically what I'm saying is required to having the hangtong, the special insight, shine, the calm abiding. You have that kind of a grounded and stability, but to see the nature of a mind, you have to have the hangtong, the special insight. The water, which symbolize the stability, and the small fish that goes inside the water and look around without kind of like stirring the water, and that's the hangtong. So to witness or to experience the nature of a mind, you have to have that not only stability, but on top of that, that Lhagtong mind, okay, Lhagtong mind, especially inside mind. Then through that, so maybe we can kind of like looking back to the root text, and you see in even the Shine meditation, there is some type of observation and analysis process, such as like empty, vividness, unobscured, clear, that kind of like there's a process of observation. And that's considered as a not ultimate analysis, just kind of like a conventional analysis, just kind of very simple. And that can be done through type of a hakton, not by Shine mind, but type of not fully matured, not necessarily that kind of special insight mind. And so to really to qualify to the, kind of like a experience the nature of a mind, then we have to have a specific qualification, state of a mind, which is basically naturally able to ground, and through the state of a natural state of a ground, able to observe. That's basically Shine and Lhagtong, kind of integration, integrated. So, so basically, the best mind, the best mind, the best trained mind, the healthiest mind. Okay, so you have to require to that to able to see the nature of a mind. Okay, so here, Lhagtong. So. I mean, like when we're doing generally, when we don't have a full kind of like a qualified Shine and not full qualified kind of like a Lhagtong, the special insight, but we can do some kind of like a simulation for a short period of time. So that in that ground, we can gradually grow. So that's the kind of like the practice. So you kind of like continuity, consistency, you kind of going through the process again and again. Doesn't require you need to do a very long time, but basically consistent quality, that kind of a process, you're able to slowly get into the, kind of like the actual Shine mind and actual Hanto mind. Okay. Okay, so here, the ultimate nature of a mind introducing So, so meditation into the ultimate nature of the mind, again, same process. You go through either refuge ngondo or Guru Yoga ngondo, and one of these ngondo bases. You go through that, okay? Then through that, you kind of get into the state of a Noah Pempun, appearings are indistinct. After kind of some type of dissolution, you did it with a based on not necessarily in wisdom, but based on a very strong devotion and open heart. Basically more kind of like your I would say your karmic connection. And based on that, you're dissolving the merit fields or refuge field into yourself. Through that, going into the state of appearings are indistinct. Now, pimpin, just basically kind of due to the blessings of the merit field, due to the blessings of the refuge field, and due to the merit of your own self, somehow you're able to kind of naturally thrown out into the state of appearance in distance. So that will become very, very important. Okay. Then once you kind of, there can be two layers, contrived and uncontrived layers. That kind of maybe at the beginning, maybe a little bit more contrived, and both maybe uncontrived, kind of mixed it. And through the consistent practice of your own day-to-day basis, so then through that you can have a more natural, uncontrived, that kind of like after dissolution process due to karma and merit, and then having that kind of a state of a kind of a non-conceptual appearance in distance, basically state of some type of a non-conceptual, non-reactive, okay? And then you're trying to be into that state as long as possible in a kind of not timing. I mean, like, I don't know, timing, timing may become obstacle. Timing may become also beneficial. So I don't know, that part you need to figure out. Then through that, so basically, you need to push that limit a little bit to see there's some kind of a surface nature of a mind, surface kind of like the kind of a function, not with a narrative in a story, but the mind itself, kind of seeing some kind of its own movement, its own vibration, or its own kind of experience, clear and knowing, something like that. Something that's basically, mainly, is not so much the knowing part that we are adding. Maybe the knowing part, maybe through experience, somehow you kind of senses through the state of a kind of a non-distracted state. Knowing part, you kind of senses. The clear part is maybe more vivid, just because of the absence of a reactive mind. So it's basically you're being into the absence of that reactive state of awareness, and there's a so-called clear. It's kind of there's nothing intrinsic, independently create. Kind of absence of something creates naturally something. In this context, that kind of like absence of a reactive mind, not going past in the future, not digging into any kind of these things. So that absence creates that kind of like a calm and peace and clarity, some kind of like a freshness, okay? And so once you kind of awareness and experience somehow gets into kind of same point, and then you kind of bringing attention into that, just abiding into it. So just trying to abiding into it. And that's the kind of the first kind of like a jump start into the meditation, the nature of a mind. So you're just kind of staying into that. Then basically that state you are kind of like polishing more further, kind of pushing, I'm using kind of word pushing, kind of like you are not analyzing, but that experience you're trying to extend as much deep as possible. Okay, and of course, journey is so that journey becomes much more Shine meditation to deepening that experience, that process called now Shine. Okay, that becomes a Shivan. To deepening that process to much more further, non-reactive, calm abiding, particularly calm abiding, becomes very important. So in the process, the experience can be different experience. So at the beginning, kind of like a more challenge with a mental wandering or reaction, a different type of reaction. And basically, the journey will be much more to how you're going to respond into when you face that waves of your thoughts reacting and distracting. And just basically journey is a much more Shine journey, Shine training. Shine is just basically very healthy way of responding into the unpredictable karmic reactions. Okay, so that's basically there's some guidelines, but fundamentally, you need to feel it. You need to kind of like experience. You need to taste it. You need to say, oh, this is a good, this is too salty, or this is too sweet. There's no standard salty and sweet. It's an individual taste. So journey is basically learning how to respond into that kind of a setting. When you are fully distracted, when you are kind of like generally there's no such a that kind of session, usually you cannot really kind of like see the direction and see the progression. And you don't see the way to respond. It's just all over. So in this context, into that kind of like a nature of a mind, you're trying to abide in your awareness, and then the journey is the way to respond when the distraction arises. So early part will be mostly training into that, and then the later part of the training will be not all you're not just trying to learning how to a healthy way of responding, but you are trying to see something within the experience, nature deba, emerging in stillness and movement. This kind of like emerging. Tuden Jimbala used not necessarily word merging. Tuden Jimbala used Gishi Tuden Jimbala. I think it's a infusion of stillness and movement. Something that basically is already very healthy seeds of a Hakton meditation is getting into that. So basically, emerging or infusion in the meditation, stillness in the movement. So in one aspect, is basically there's a movement that is not just kind of like it is more complementing that stillness, and the movements doesn't interferes the stillness doesn't interfere the movement. So they are much more stable, complementing. And from one perspective into one another perspective, the concept, this idea over here is the infusion of a stillness in the movement is basically meditation practitioner have not that much dualistic, the karmic movements of your reactive thought and intended concentrated thought. You don't see merging. You just don't see, basically they both seems like a wave, different type of a wave of ocean. Just basically it's comes down to the nature of the mind itself. Okay. So in another way, so since there is some type of a dualistic kind of a dissolved, so therefore it makes state of awareness, stillness and movement doesn't become kind of like interference of each other. So that is like a kind of a little bit much more the healthiest seeds of Hakton, the special insight. And you take that one is basically now individual. Once we reach there, I think that's the if you're doing like a 2-month retreat or something, we might be able to get there quite quick, hopefully. And once you get there, I think this is a really self-encouraging for the meditator to getting the full shine. So I think like just shine when you're talking is becomes a little bit kind of like and you seeing where you are and that what is described it sounds like a really far, but when you have kind of like your responding to reactive thoughts becomes much more improved. Then you have something much more stillness, and the movement doesn't become kind of like interference each other. And you have a kind of like a slowly, that kind of duality, the stillness and the reactive duality doesn't become too strong. That kind of slowly kind of fades. And then through that, basically, the the journey of your original meditation becomes much more kind of like a natural flow, rather than becomes kind of like a much more kind of like effortless. So so maybe the effortless part of your journey of a shine will becomes the most progression you make. Your shine training becomes kind of like a much more, once you reach into the effortless journey. So basically you just set the motivation, and kind of it takes natural flow of your concentration into the nature of a mind. Okay. And that kind of like you haven't obtained the shinya mind, but however that becomes the kind of more promising for your obtainment of a shine, a natural flow session. There's much more natural flow. So and then through the state of that kind of a natural flow, then once you have a much more kind of like the descriptions becomes through the state of natural flow, they have this kind of a physical and mental pliancy or suppleness, whatever we're going. There's something that's individual and physically, and through the awareness, that there's some kind of different. You see the change. You see something different. You feel different. Any type of when you're doing because the mind is affecting your body. And then there is such a naturally abiding into your awareness becomes much more grounded. And through the state of that grounding, again, then you take that one to the next level, which is here, the meditation into the ultimate nature of mind. Then what's happening is you are not necessarily, there's no kind of like, there's no kind of, how you say, you are, oh, I might lose my concentration, or that kind of like karmic reactive interference, no more going to happening. So there's a kind of ease, and through that kind of state of easiness, you have this freedom to observe, freedom to, your wisdom to look at it. So that concentration through the lens of wisdom becomes, I think, is a very much ultimate concentration. Concentration, you're bringing your concentration through the lens of your wisdom becomes ultimate concentration. Okay, so it is a kind of like a doesn't depend. You have to sit in your cushion. It's your mind is really into that zone with a very much with a awake, and very much with a full focus. That state becomes very, very I say, more deepening your awareness of the nature of reality. So that's kind of like the nyambashabene miyo tami chunandu nyajun jubatar chamishebe zangba, chamishebe gombapos. So there's a constantly I want to use obsessed to what is reality. I don't know, maybe not obsessed, but there's this kind of like a natural flow. Attention is taken to see the nature of things, just beyond this materialism, beyond this surface reality. It's just naturally, kind of like observing. And this observation is internal, it's not the external material world. So here, this author really, the self, the I, okay? So in Buddhism, evolution of a human being is not so clear. Last time we were talking, so there's nothing clear like a defining evolution of a human being. We have a Gyawa Tangbumi, and when that happened, it was a long time ago, not necessarily specifically. But anyway, the point over here is here, through the stage of this, it's not so much the past, where you're coming from. There's not so much where you're going, where you're going. None of these is discussed or observed here, just basically in the present self, the Gombapo, the meditator, the self. Then here, kind of like, that's the kind of like, that is the instruction. But that instruction we take, when you meditate, we meditate as like an instruction. It have to be a little bit more natural. It becomes like a much more kind of organized script, and then doesn't becomes so through the Shine mind, that transition in observing the self. Of course, at the beginning, we might do as like a script. Your meditation is well script. Meditation nature of mind may become like a more script, but the now that transition to observing the observer, the self, the I, it need to come through somewhere. It should not become like a more script. So here, again, something internally need to be triggered to looking into the nature of a self. Something your own experience of a karma need to be triggered through that. So that's, I think, many times we take as an instruction, and instruction becomes like a instruction. It's just instruction. So where is the inner call? Our own inner call. So this is, I think, one of the important part. So therefore, Ngondo practice, which is sometimes our attention goes to lots of into the recitation and visualization and so on and so forth. But also a part of the Ngondo is getting clear what we're doing and why we're doing. What was the my own kind of like input? What is my own karmic message? Whatever that internally kind of, and that getting more. So here. So as I mentioned last time, yesterday, that's I'm kind of like speculating, So more the kind of like a wish for freedom for yourself, freedom for yourself, something that you want to get out from, and that I think may lead to that might be that motivation or that renunciation may becomes the inner trigger to your naturally to look the self, ultimate nature of looking into the ultimate nature of a self. Okay, so we have to have not taking as like a guideline, but we need to see what is our inner, you know, triggers to, like why I need to look at into the nature of a self. So that's, I think, with the wish for freedom or wish for liberation, a meditation of a renunciation, and so on and so forth, within the three principles of the path. The first one may play important role to that kind of like a natural triggering to looking into the ultimate nature of mind. Okay. So it's need to be processed. You look. I'm looking at. Basically, to get this kind of natural trigger. Again, the word renunciation is kind of like there's a different stages. In the early stages, maybe more depressive, maybe later state. One time, a friend of mine says, Rinpoche, what is different between the renunciation and the depression? Nothing's working. So I think the early stages may have a similarly kind of like more detached feeling. There's no kind of like inspiration and intuition. So renunciation can have a enthusiasm and inspired stage, and renunciation, which is kind of like you're tired of everything. So that may become at the beginning. Then through that, then gradually you're kind of like luckily wake up from that, and you're looking for inspiration. So that might play. That might play important role. Wish for liberation, wish for freedom. Wish, you know, get, and that kind of like. Our dream, you know, that dream to, you know, kind of dreaming our myself as a kind of liberated being, and that kind of like a seeing free from all this limitation of mind, and that kind of like a very fearlessness of a state of existence, and compassionated and wiseness. So that you know, I think renunciation is one part is you're very clear what you want, the later part of the renunciation. The early part of the renunciation, you're very clear what you don't want. The later part of renunciation, you're very clear, spiritual, what you wanted. And that part of the inspiration may play important role to inner trigger to going into the meditation in emptiness of a self, not kind of like becoming kind of scripted version. It's much more naturally, okay? So again, instruction comes something like that, but that transition had to have our own inner trigger, kind of like a natural. So so there is that Shine meditation have a lot of inspiration. Through the state of that inspiration, you kind of almost have the Shine is the kind of like as I say, you know, sometime in shopping mall they want to sell some food. They give you small piece. What you call that? Sample. So maybe Shine is the sample of a liberation. So you know what you're getting, some kind of. So maybe through that Shine, there's such a kind of like, I got it, the taste. So maybe state of that, as I mentioned, renunciation, the later part of the renunciation, you're very clear what you want. So combination with that in the backdrop and your in the front, your experience of a Shine combination, I think there's then okay. You want to see the ultimate nature of a mode of existence of yourself. Okay. I think so. That's Tamishe base, you know. So again, now the process of a meditation of emptiness is we have to get some kind of like a inner multitask. I would say inner multitask. What that means is basically through the state of a stillness and part of your awareness, Tamishebe, subtle awareness, it says subtle awareness, is we cannot just go randomly, kind of like a straightforward, you know, showing whole things. You need to choose the awareness that you're going to apply to see the ultimate nature of a self. So it's not that like we take this this mind and straightforward like analyzing and observing. So Tamishepe. So that's very qualitative awareness. You kind of brought through your Shine meditation. And then through that, so that's again, you know, something make sure you see, I know the procedure, but am I doing applying this whole thing into the really good quality or cheap quality? So so basically, Tamishepe is like something that's the process of observing awareness is something have a really subtle awareness, Tamishepe, subtle awareness. And that subtle awareness basically means the best part of the best, your Shine awareness. And also your Hatong awareness. And also like the most nutritious water, or the most super food. You have the super consciousness. You get that subtle super consciousness, and you unleash that to observing the ultimate nature of a self. Okay, Tamishebes. So yeah, you know, we usually know also not my good state of my mind is we usually know it's a healthy state. We can know generally we can kind of like observe. So through the meditation, you're finding the best awareness. The so then that Tamishepa to get into the then what you call like then you are selected into the wisdom team. Yeah, Nagarjuna team. Now you are selected. Uh, so you are to qualify to get it, to select it into that one. So this Tami Sherpa is not just saying the wisdom do it through the state of a meditated mind, very well trained, well grounded, it have that kind of natural flow. It have a discipline, it have a patience, it have all well trained. That kind of like a subtle awareness, that is what you're trying to apply in the observing the ultimate nature of self. Okay, Tamishibi, Kiwiranshin Zangparta. And then process of observing is here in meditation in the Madhyamika, meditation in the emptiness, Madhyamika meditation, they call like a 4-point analysis meditation. That's kind of like there's a clearly structured, and within the 4-point analysis, the first one is the called meditation in object renegation, and this kind of a guideline or like a recommendation is a much more stronger into the maybe in a Ganden Kagyu Mahamudra, and generally in the Kagyu Mahamudra, even the Sakya tradition won't recommend too much into the recognizing object renegation, this kind of like a part of the meditation of emptiness. But Tsongkhapa really kind of trying to getting this kind of instruction from particularly from Shantideva's wisdom chapter. In Shantideva's Bodhisattva Chayavatara, in the wisdom chapter, he mentions very clearly you have to get that first. Recognizing the what you're negating, the emphasis coming there because not to falling into the nihilism. So therefore you have to really get clear what you are emptying, not emptying the nothingness. There's an empty of absence. There's a there's a through our habit you're expecting something, through habit, through karmic habit. Through our own habit of our mental behavior, cognitive behavior, emotional behavior, karmic behavior, there's something is not taught it and learned it. It's not through that. It's just this kind of karmically, naturally, you're expecting something. Basically, something is not necessarily intentionally. Maybe expectation is kind of like not intentional, but kind of obvious. There is basically reality have its own intrinsic something is there based on what we see and what we experience. Something is there. So here, object renegation meditation. So anyway, I'm getting a little bit kind of so here, Tamishebe Zangbatak into the in Madhyamika meditation, when you start the meditation of object renegation, this is exactly meditation of object renegation. You bringing this kind of a subtle awareness to see the innate grasping state of mind. So if we just go with the core grasping of a self, and you're trying to kind of analyze and observe and deconstruct it, then it becomes much more limited. It doesn't become the root of our affliction. So this subtle awareness, you are applying through the state of a meditated state, this subtle awareness to kind of witness the innate grasping. this part of the meditation of object negation. And really, the majority, I feel, majority of at the beginning when we're training meditation of emptiness, if we rush to deconstructing through the logic and so on and so forth, I think we are kind of like how you say, I think it becomes sometimes, I think it won't be healthy. So spending it can be really boring, but but that meditation of object negation, state of non-conceptual, you're bringing the subtle awareness with grounded in the stillness, and then through that somehow be fully satisfied, fully present, and not making up things as stories, and just kind of like getting deeper and deeper and observing through the non-movement of a karmic conceptual reactions. And you have that kind of like, so that's Tamishebe Zangbartax. So there is a curiosity into that subtle awareness, into the what is the self. Okay. So now that then basically comparison, like you have your karmic kind of expectation, and you are observing, and you have a Nagarjuna's kind of like information. You kind of like you have those kind of like guidelines. So you do combination. All these three together, your present is almost like a three-way of a communication. You have a kind of put together, and then there's a really kind of like a, and that inner dialogue becomes sharp and short and clear. Not getting too much may become complicated. So we need to get kind of deep look, and then even just once you get kind of even a questioning the appearing and existence of a self, that's good enough. And then you kind of pause into that. You get pause into that, not reinforcing what you witness. Just staying pause. And sometimes it gets more clear, sometimes it fades. And so different experiences. So then again, you come back. So here, Tamishebe, Zangbartax. So at the beginning, in the part of the meditation, will be much more observing. It's not necessarily as a concentration, but it's a basically inner deep listening. It's just kind of like an inner deep listening. So it's not so much something objective you are looking there in the concept, but just basically more internalized. And what is the self, the I, okay? 기부 삼미 추망이 메밀놈이 나가미 남심의 그러면은 텔레신의 기부 comes. So, and this deducted, like a Heart Sutra, like Nagarjuna's Precious Garland and the Root Wisdom, have all the time saying this kind of deducted. Basically, what you feel, what you're feeling, not so much what you understand, what you feel about yourself, and the logic or the awareness, you're seeing that contradiction. Kind of like it's just basically seeing some kind of a contradiction between your innate and your intellectual, your instinct and your intellectual, your instinct and your awareness of so that's kind of like a cracking first, kind of an intrinsic sense of self. Okay, so basically, I think into the I think that kind of a deconstructed process is that is kind of almost kind of like a backup theme rather than it's not the core things, I think. The main thing what you want to have is that kind of like it's just kind of like at the beginning state of a kind of strange state of, like, for example, you through the state of this kind of a subtle awareness, once you able to kind of recognize the innate grasping mind, see the innate behavior of a sense of self is coming, and then when you're applying, then you kind of just by reflecting into the Nagarjuna's logic and then seeing that contradiction, it's kind of like and you basically don't need to solve the question and answer the question, but there's something is not right. There's something that the wisdom, when you kind of shine the wisdom, the Nagarjuna's wisdom, that innate sense of self, there's something is not true, or something is contradictory. You don't have to see the grid, but there is something uncomfortable, something uncomfortable, unease, and basically, what is that? How that's happening? And none kind of going through the detail, but you're basically pressing within the 12 link, the first 12 link. In that period of time, you are really knocking that. So again, so basically, there's a possibilities to go out of that context, mind get distracted, and then again coming back to the state of a non-conceptual. That's like a priority to not to get out of that realm, and again going back to the. So basically, is non-existence, kind of like a non-applicating, just kind of you're not trying to establish, you're not trying to form, to make something. You're just kind of like really staying into that kind of like a mere absence, kind of surprise, the self-grasping, kind of like a basically innate grasping mind become like kind of shock. That kind of state of shock. Oh, there's nothing furthermore explained is happening. And basically that becomes the, like there's a kind of much more subtle level of a state of a non-conceptual once the innate grasping mind get like, I say, shocked, very shocked. Okay, it's kind of shocked. And that's non-affirming, non-application. There's nothing is trying to describe. It's just kind of like so once you hit that corner, and that's the like a pulse, that's important. That's important. Not trying to bring that pure vision of yourself. Just getting into that corner, that state of shock. Absent non-conceptualizing. Basically, it's much more subtle level of a state of non-conceptualizing. That's a really good state of a perfect environment to see of a nature of a mind, or sometimes that shock state. In the Dzogchen's terminology, they call in simhedewa, one simhedewa, hedewa, simsangtelwa, hedewa. So basically, one time His Holiness told one story, and he said one of the American student from California, I think it's in the Bay Area somewhere, and he met in 1989. There's a huge earthquake, and His Holiness told that, like, it's just like just wondering you were during that time there, and like what you felt. I tell some stories, and he asked to this student, like, what you how kind of a scary situation, and the earthquake. That was like a quite high earthquake, no? It's like number 8.2. 8.2. I was in at that time. I think I was in Wisconsin, 1989. I was just like 18 or 19 years old. I just came for a short time to check out how the America looks like. It's in 1989. And anyway, that story. Then the student told His Holiness, I got a really profound Dzogchen experience during that the ego was shocked. So anyway, that kind of like sometime we get that shock states really kind of pause every karmic reactions, and sometimes we say that's a profound experience of Mahamudra or Ripa or nature of mind. So that's like no, it's just kind of like so here through the logic, you stay into that kind of innate grasping mind in a state of a shock. You know, it's just kind of like a non kind of like a seeing kind of absence only through the logic process, then the basically non-affirming, non-implicated or non-affirming state of that's once you get there, that's again, I think, one area that we need to stabilize, expand, grounding that experience. It is for basically that becomes a very helpful to really to purifying our cognitive mind, that mere absence into the state of a kind of non-activated of a grasping state, non-activated of a grasping states. So that's, I think, the again the basically, because of the Shine meditation is a naturally helpful to abiding. There's no kind of like a struggling. It's kind of because of the Shine background is naturally able to abide, but still shifted to slight different field. So there must be a little bit some kind of like a uncomfortableness, but because of the blessing of the Shine, it will move on naturally. And then through that, then you come out from that kind of a state of a meditated mind, and then basically you are kind of what the impact, you know, you went through that kind of little bit deep kind of like a healthy trauma, healthy wisdom trauma. How about that? So you see, do you have any kind of a PDS after that? Off session, you see what's going on, some kind of pause of that wisdom meditation. So you see what you're seeing, experience it fundamentally, basically, basically, I think we're going back, same thing, that kind of like a discernment is a much more subdued. So you have a seeing the things are moving, this you can hear, you can everything, but naturally, sometimes you say like post meditation is everything's kind of literally saying as like an illusion. So there's not so much taking as everything as too serious. So appearing and experience and everything, there's some kind of lightness way of responding for the experience of your karma. So there's like a naturally drop that kind of like a tenseness of things taking quite serious. So now I think now there's a kind of through these meditation and a post-meditation, kind of friction between these two, then without not necessarily intentionally trying to see as a logic and reasons, then kind of naturally leads to all phenomena, all existence, the way you kind of like refine or define is merely labeled, merely imputed, merely labeled. It's kind of like it's an outcome naturally, everything as a merely labeled, merely imputed, imputely existence. Not necessarily direct logic and reasons you can apply, but I think it's through that kind of like a meditated eco-pose as like a space, and post-meditation as like an illusion, so how you experience reality. There's a kind of two different contrasts, or experience of awareness, through that kind of like a eruption, or whatever you call it, kind of like a, and then it naturally leads to your awareness, your experience of reality, kind of like a, you're anchoring everything to kind of to making perspective is from the merely labeled and merely imputed point of view. You are not making everything a perspective through the truly existence. So it's like a different way of refining and defining the reality or day-to-day life, our existence. So basically, coffee mission becomes so different. Okay. 미요 탐미 추난도 탐미 쉐베 장바르다스 탐미 쉐베 장바르다. So basically, one way to look at it is, basically, I think in Tibetan word we call it du du du, mindu mindu mindu, du du du, mindu 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 means it's there, but it's not there, not there. So something, the process, when you kind of like clearly observed by ultimate analysis, everything's kind of fades. That kind of intrinsicness, inherentness kind of fades. It just becomes kind of like a flow of energy, or depending on whatever we're going to label it. So then once you kind of take back, and then looks like everything comes together, there's something there, there's something there. And then again, you kind of, and into this observation, into the state of a meditated mind. This is confusing. And basically, I think not knowing, kind of confusing reality and what is a reality and what is not reality. Maybe at the beginning, sometimes there's a kind of like you get lost, and you get also because of that loss, you get a little bit kind of fear and confusing. So, and sometimes in the instruction, this is like sometimes you have a really sad that things that you build up, everything suddenly kind of like a strange and fall apart through that kind of the sadness at the beginning. Sometimes they say like some individuals suddenly get like so inspired, almost like the things that you lost and now you found. And there's that kind of an excited state of it. First meditation of emptiness. Okay, you find it, your mother. Excited. Yeah. And saying, where you went? I was looking for so long time. Found it. Okay. Then I think the word yogi, Trupto, okay. So now from the in this instruction, when he talks the meditation of emptiness of self, he mainly referred to the Nagarjuna's work. Okay, when you go to the meditation of emptiness of the nature of a mind, the ultimate nature of mind, then he refers to Shantideva's in the wisdom chapter. He gives a little bit two different kind of like the way you realign the instructions. Okay, so 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 now over here, I think the format of analysis is pretty much the same, but the approach is slightly different and the object is slightly different between the meditation in the ultimate nature of mind and the meditation into emptiness of self, the I, okay, the meditator. Now, uh, now, our intrinsic, even when we see conventional nature of mind, we see conventional nature of mind as intrinsic and a true independent or true existence. Yes. Even Zoom give up. It's because it became mere I say, none for me, none stay in there. Okay. So I think whatever grasping that we experience, whatever the top tens are, whatever the most standard are, I think this is we need to take some type of time into observing and finding the layers, like this is, I think, otherwise we experience the grasping and just kind of a state of that confusion and that pain, kind of like to making worthwhile, and then time to time to kind of like seeing different what condition creates how my rooting will be to creating that strong grasping, seeing that ritual. Which kind of ritual I will go through. Okay, so once you see that behavior, yeah, like what triggers, and you see something you need to map up yourself a little bit, and so you know a little bit better. And then if I somehow not able to kind of lost through that, and once the grasping goes on, and then we need to see kind of way to measuring like a pain, pain like a number 1 to 10, and similarly this way we need to learn the grasping will be number 1 to 10, where something that we need to get that really clear. And then I think some kind of like a observing and assessment and analysis, and based on our own karmic situation. And then finally that goes to where there's some kind of like fundamentally goes this kind of rejected state. Then you becomes, like all these stories, then fundamentally you can see that kind of like a lonely self, rejected self, like that kind of, there's something that you get isolated. And during that time, the graspings becomes really serious. uh, 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 the kind of like non-seen and means nothingness. I mean nothing, kind of rejected. And then your grasping is a very strong that, but there's a fear of a lonely. So you see now once you get there, this is much more like a is it can if that's we don't be careful, it can basically from the I think from the philosophical point of view, all different layers of a graspings are activated. All the grasping, in a sound you have all these different things up. All the graspings are activated, and that's the really, if you stuck into that zone for a long time, there is a kind of paralyzed, nothing able to do. You kind of becomes kind of totally heavy and stuck, and then kind of falling apart. So I think there's a general grasping. It's okay. Once you get there, I think it's more danger. You get there, it's getting danger. Basically, what is it will kind of like, and then through these states, there's also much more vulnerable yourself. Becomes psychologically, emotionally, many wise, you becomes much more vulnerable. You becomes much more kind of like vulnerable for many different obstacles. And here, the concept of a non-human spirit interference is makes sense from my point of view. And basically, you are kind of weak. And then there's a kind of like how you say. Bullying spirits starting to bullying you, different spirits, kind of, because the same thing, it's just a vulnerable, because you are spiritually, psychologically, you kind of, although in reality is everything is just projection, you're just making it up, but there's something that you internally, your spirit, your cognitive wise, you get into that corner. So basically, the reason when we're doing Heart Sutra is basically kind of like not to fall into that state. Okay, you're supposed to like removing obstacle. Heart Sutra is removing obstacle. It's basically not to get that zone. So. Mm, so I think also, different people can get into that zone through different circumstances, different background. But anyway, one common flavor will be that kind of rejected state of a self seen as a very rejected state of self. Not just self-grasping, I want to something, I want. That grasping is a little bit spoiled. But there is something that much more becomes rejected state of a self. And that kind of like fear comes through the lonely self. So this combination will, in that state of a grasping of self becomes demoralizing, basically you really not able to function. The key ingredients to throwing you out to this state is attachment is the fundamental, like the one thing becomes again, that's need to see whatever the self-attachment, that making that story makes very vulnerable into falling into that kind of like a rejected state. So anyway, there can be many different ways of falling into that. But basically what I'm saying over here is a kind of knowing yourself, okay, is going and knowing that self and that process, and you don't want to be into that. Or sometime, okay, fine, you get into that kind of a state of a grasping is kind of like a really another way of a meditated ego poise, unhealthy way of going into kind of, you going in that zone and you're kind of stuck. You don't see any possibility, none of forming of a possibility, like you just kind of like a totally collapse that in. So sometime, even though you kind of, okay, karmically, that definite karma, anyway, you're going through crash into that zone, but you have a keeping in our mind that's, okay, anyway, I will get out. Sooner than later. If we don't keep that hope and just kind of fully concentrated into that state, it's also very, very dangerous. Okay, so even though sometimes you get, okay, you kind of almost reminding yourself, I'll get out, I will get out. This is okay, this moment is difficult, but I will get out. At least that hint, seed was thrown into your mind is very important. Okay, so my point over here is basically the innate, in the word, when we say innate grasping of self, innate sense of self, there's kind of like a Okay, anyway. So, but my point is just basically observing based on your own experience, based on your own history, the grasping, the process of grasping when it's falling down, and you're kind of like developing mindfulness and awareness. And then you have a kind of like that's, I think, is a one thing important. So what I'm saying over here is, sometimes you hear like in the Madhyamika teaching in Chandrakirtis, sometimes they call like 7 poles of logic and reasons. And then you see there's 5 logics and reasons. Uh, so these are like not so much like how you say, like a buffet, what you want. I like number 2 within the 7-fold. And the number 2, I like the number. It's not so much in that context. You see, these are really observation of a different layers of a grasping that we need to work it. And when you say 7-fold, basically I see there's 7 layers of a grasping we go through process, and working with through each logic, kind of responding, and kind of almost like untangling that grasping through the logic awareness. And so like a 7-fold Nagarjuna's, that is the I think it will lead like kind of like a thorough observation of the nature of existence, thorough observation of the nature of existence, and just basically that analysis will really help you to kind of like naturally guide into the see reality as it exists perspective of an observer. There's nothing into the as an object. So merely labeled, merely imputed. So it's a different way of experience. So I think that itself is not so big deal from my point of view, but the impact of the impact into the cognitive journey, maybe that's more serious. Okay, once we see intrinsic, then behavior of a cognitive. When you see merely labels, then behavior of our cognitive. And that's, I think, the really key thing. So recommendation over here, merely labeled, the behavior of our cognitive awareness becomes much more naturally grounded, naturally clear, naturally compassionated. So that's, I think, the key thing. Once you have the behavior of a cognitive mind established based on the intrinsicness, then there's a duality, then there's a true egotistical self-grasping, suffering, all so on and so forth. So I think it's really the fundamental is about the impact into the, deconstructing of intrinsic reality is a process. It's not the most ultimate goal. Basically we want to see pure experience of our cognitive awareness. And that leads to all the inner tantra, which is talking like a clear light experience and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay. Yananyamba shabene jimene chabame ba jubisin, tome nashi zimba yishin, kuna sushin shawan trauma sushin. So now, for really kind of like what you call like familiarization of ultimate analysis and kind of like a training ground to really well-oriented, well-grounded into the observation of a nature of a self and nature of a mind is within the 5 logic, the first logic of a one and many called Jigdudagiripa. That's really that's really good. That's the kind of like we can kind of see the logically, kind of showing contradiction for the innate grasping self. You can see that very practical and make sense. And that format and the 7-point analysis formats are very much same flavor, but coming from different grasping layers observation. Now, now that then there's like a diamond silver logics and different these logics are I think expansion of your meditation of a wisdom, like a meditation emptiness of a phenomenon. So basically sometimes we call like a number type of gosum, wishlessness, signlessness, and naturelessness. There's a three meditation. Basically, it's kind of well-rounding for all phenomena, able to experience emptiness of all phenomena. And then I think the rest of the logic within the five, the second and third and fourth, and particularly the fifth, logic of dependent origination, can become like also like a well-rounded of your wisdom. It's not individually targeted, not just self and not just aggregate, and just kind of like an emptiness, awareness of emptiness for all existence phenomena. And it's just kind of like opening up. That logic is not necessarily kind of deconstructing. It's just logic will open you up your wisdom to applying to all phenomena, seeing the true nature of all phenomena. Okay. Kanjanamdo zimba yuri na tunam. Okay. Now what the machu pass? Okay. We're supposed to stop what time? 12:30 or 12:30? Okay. Okay. Kina soji no shesu lungda zhiba nao dharma zhiba zeji dona da yinda jimji shenga ni kansha namdo zimba yori na tundam kansha namdo zimba yon rik na tundam chuyin shenla dumechar tundam chuyin shenla dumechar kansha namdo zimba yon rik na tundam chuyin shenla dumechar sharwe ngando rigba sharwe ngando rigba shuba la zeji nyambar zhiba ema os. Okay, Emaho, we'll stop here. Emaho. Any question? We'll do one. Yeah, go ahead.
What is the key to understanding and using the concept of 7 layers of grasping? Thank you.
Understanding of different layers of grasping. What is the key for understanding 7 layers of grasping? What's the key? What's the key? Venerable, can you?
Can you explain what is most important to understanding 7 layers of grasping?
Importance. I think it's necessary. I'm not sure it's important. It's just kind of like importance. I think different layer. Basically we get reactive, we get caught, we get distracted, so all these things are due to grasping, and particularly this 7 layer of different grasping is basically related with the self. Basically, somehow, as like for example, earlier mentioned this kind of like a rejected self, and a rejected self have some kind of like a it have a very strong front flavor of a first and second layers of a grasping. Kind of rejected self, and the eye of the hurricane, that kind of like that eye of the hurricane within that grasping, like a grasping number, I'll say like a 5 and 6 have a very strong that kind of like a in kind of, it's not separate, but it is within, it's almost like a spice you put all together. And there's a really one taste make a individual taste. And so here is a really that into that state when you feel ever rejected, and there's a sense of the all graspings are very much present, but it's kind of within that layers. It's all sevens are, as I mentioned, everything's amplified, magnified, and it have some kind of like a. It's about all thing. It's like there's a expectation of a self, and there's identity of a self, and there's a rejected self, and there's this whole kind of very confusing and kind of like all together. It basically sense of self that what you believe, and sense of self what you don't want is there. Everything's there. Okay, so that grasping, if I use very philosophical terminology, then there's a self-permanent grasping, self as a self-sufficient grasping, and there's a self-independent grasping. Like I can use all these terminology, but it's basically multi-dimension of a grasping is integrated. So I think that is the ultimate poison for full potential of our cognitive mind function. Maximizing potentials. It's really kind of interference. So if you say what is the importance of that is, so we can kind of like weigh our cognitive state of awareness, not falling. But I'm just giving you general hint, but yeah, I think is in a short period of time to giving whole detail would be complicated. But it's just like here, the hint. Okay. Yeah.
So for me, there's so much to keep in. So as I heard you were talking about Shine and that work, and then inquiring mind, looking for self-recognizing absence, and then kind of phantom experience, there and not there. I kind of hear Nirmanakaya, Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya. Is that an okay way to kind of think about it, conceptualize it, just for myself to have some understanding, or not so much?
I think at the beginning, really, you kind of not labeling anything, but going through the process and creating that experience. Then this is a Dhammakaya, this is a Sambhogakaya. It's like it is maybe later when your own flow of a wisdom meditation becomes much more grounded, and then a little bit having kind of like a title for each state. And this is a Dharmakaya, this is in the state of a meditation, really, you don't really label anything. In actual sadhana meditation or meditation, even meditation in emptiness, you don't say, I'm meditating emptiness. It is just a flow of awareness. And there's no kind of like, how you say, awareness of you're doing meditation of emptiness. It's kind of like you are merge into that observation. So I will say yes, not necessarily really kind of that flow becomes more true to yourself would be much more important than categorizing in different states. But now, in some advanced practice, meditation of emptiness, and then there's some kind of like a divine identifying as a dharmakaya or something like this. There's some, once you get really stabilized, and I think yes, but the early part really kind of dissolving that kind of like an intrinsic self will be the primary important. Good.
You briefly mentioned clear light. I'm not asking a question directly about that, but yesterday also you mentioned briefly alluded to Buddha nature. So is Buddha nature experience an implication of the experience of emptiness of mind? Because if we're saying emptiness of mind, it should be non-affirming. So Buddha nature, it cannot actually be nature of mind, ultimate nature of mind. So is it sort of the implication of the emptiness of mind? I guess is what I'm asking. Yeah, like kind of experience or understanding potential.
I mean, like
I don't know if I'm being clear.
kind of roughly understood. So, sometime when you say Buddha nature has a potential, it's kind of like a much more kind of like inspiring for us to see Buddha nature as a potential. We all have that potential, but that doesn't really giving the real picture of a Buddha nature. And a real picture, there's like when you concept this idea, Buddha nature, they call like Rangshineri and Geiguri. Rangshineri, naturally abiding Buddha nature, naturally abiding Buddha. When you say naturally abiding Buddha nature, it's not talking from point of view of a potential. It's just kind of like there. It's there as a ultimate, maybe from the clear light point of view, that's your own clear light mind is the Buddha nature. Now, from the another way from talking, ultimate nature of mind, ultimate nature of mind is absence of all the constructed thoughts, and that's kind of an absence of a constructed thoughts naturally comes to the ultimately that will be clear state of a mind, clear light mind. Okay. So, so Mahamudra, so therefore I think sometime Mahamudra study or Mahamudra practice will be very important, integrated with the Uttara Tantra, the first chapter, which is gives you a lot of kind of kind of very poetic way of describing the nature of mind. So integration of a first chapter of Uttara Tantra and the Mahamudra, particularly in the conventional nature of mind meditation, I think it's a really, even a wisdom of understanding, that kind of complementing these two teachings are very wonderful. Okay. And Uttara Tantra first chapter have this whole explanation of a Buddha nature from different, kind of, it gives more specific, it's much more general, and it's kind of like gives you a full picture of what is a Buddha nature from much more kind of like illustrating through the examples. Okay. And that illustration becomes also like it gives very clear what is a nature of a conventional nature of a mind, also that can apply for that. Okay, thank you so much. And we'll do a short dedication and we'll take a short some break, and I'm going to do the next ritual. Basically, we have to recite several times. It's free, you can come. If you're tired, you can leave. And it won't take maybe just 40 minutes, I think. Won't take more than that.
Dedication prayers. Gewadin yondang lama sangye jongyone Rachikyang Mahalaba Dehi Sala Dharma Shok Jangchop Samchok Rinpoche Makepa Namge Gyuchi Yawanyam Bayang Gong Ne Gong Dum Bawa Shok. And we have a mandala offering Rinpoche, long or short? Short? Okay. So we'll do the mandala offering for those offering. We should start with 3 prostrations for the center. Yeah. We're not going to do the long version. We'll do the short version of the mandala offering. So we can just start right now to offer the objects.
So that's the person offering should prostrate. The rest don't prostrate. They're just the attendants.
Well, everyone's. Oh.
There's only one person offering. The rest of the attendants.
Oh, really?
They're just helping.
We're not having 3 different people offer.
Oh, I thought you said-
Usually we have one person being a receiver and a.
But are 3 different people offering the 3 objects? One person. Okay. Thank you, Venerable. Yeah.
You prostrate then. Prostrate. More Linda, right?
No, Linda's offering. Okay.
I'm just a helper.
Mhm.
Oh, I see, okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Sajin Bogi Zhongxing Me Tong Ram Ri Ram Ling Ji Ni Ne Gen Bani Sang Ye Jing No Ming Ne Wai Dong Gon Nam Dang Jing La Zhōng Ban Zhōng Jetsun La Me Concept Tenjing Kam Ga Jin Chong Chong Gen Pan Da La Zang Tembe John me sa som gi Joe mon se tang do ne yon jing Idam Gorana Mandala Kamnayatayami. And the long life prayers. the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. To the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Prajaka Buddhas, victorious Lozang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings. Through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through all benefit and happiness emerge, and from other living beings you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss. Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. Embodiment of the three divine refuges who bless us all, Genjin Tenzin, holder of the teachings, may your lifespan last for eternity. May your excellent deeds pervade all of time and space and continuously ripen for the nourishment of myself and others.